Hello there, Jane Haywood. We are Trust Consulting, and we're here to talk to you about Encompass Software, with the email you sent us a few days ago regarding the problems that you may be having. Just to give you a brief overview of who we are, we're Trust Consulting, and we have experience in small business development, the technology industry, business planning, and starting businesses, among other things as well, but those are some of the most important that we feel we need to mention. I'm now going to pass it over to John Anderson, who is going to be covering your possible problem with the hospital and the letter that they sent you.
You mentioned a letter that you received from the hospital that you used to work at. Looking into that further, I believe that you don't need to worry about that at all, because digging into code and who owns all that, owns the code. You should probably come to a agreement including a non-compete with some type of monetary agreement, because it is your intellectual property, and we want to avoid a situation like Mark Zuckerberg and the Winklevoss twins. Zuckerberg was the creator of Facebook, and he stole the intellectual property from the Winklevoss twins because they failed to have him sign a non-compete and a non-disclosure agreement. Now I'm going to pass it over to Johnny Vollmer, who's going to talk about creating your business.
Hello, Jane Haywood. My name is Johnny Vollmer, and I'm going to talk to you about establishing your business entity. So, in establishing this entity, you really make your business legitimate. This entity puts you on par with all the other businesses in the state and gives you a foundation to build on. Where you go to choose your entity is at the State Department, and it has the paperwork for the entity and the license. So this process is pretty simple. You go to the website, print the paperwork off, and you fill it out and send it in, as well as a registration fee. And soon I will go through this on the screen with you. But what I want to tell you is, in our opinion, we feel like the best entity for you to start under is a limited liability company. And this is just because you're starting out. Limited liability companies are great for startup companies, and you could always change this entity as you grow and expand your business. But one reason is because it gives the owner limited liability, so it decreases the overall risk of the business owner, and that's you. So on the contrary, like in a sole proprietorship or partnership, the owners are personally liable for the debts and liabilities of the business. So in an LLC, the owners can be protected from that issue if it's formed and ran properly. As well, an LLC sounds more prestigious than a sole proprietorship in general. Encompass Software LLC sounds like it could be a massive scale company, and no one needs to know how small it is or where it's at right now, as compared to Jane Haywood Encompass Software. That sounds a lot weaker. So right now I'm going to go to the website where you need to go fill out this information. So as you can see, I'm clicking on North Carolina Secretary of State's office. And you're going to go down to print forms right here to the left. Click on limited liability companies, and then you're going to click on the first one right here, which is articles of organization. Okay, so this is the articles of organization for the limited liability company. You're going to read through all the items and then scroll down to where you start filling it out. So this is the name of your limited liability company. Any of the people are members of the company who you're working with. The registered agent, which is you. The address of the place of business, the principal office, and then as well the mailing address. Those are the big things. It's pretty simple. Just fill this out, and then as well attach or send in the check along with it. So you're going to write out the check to the Secretary of State Department of North Carolina. And that should be it. You'll hear back from them in about 2 to 3 weeks. Now I'm going to pass it over to Sam Plott to talk about establishing a bank account for your company.
Hello there, Ms. Haywood. My name is Sam Plott, as Johnny stated, and I'm going to be talking to you about you needing to set up a bank account for your new business entity, which is Encompass Software, LLC. So what we recommend is that you go to a bank that you've worked with in the past and that you trust and set up a checking and savings account with them. And the reason why you want to go to one that you trust is so that you can possibly negotiate interest rates and things like that for your savings account. This will allow you to accept money from the investors that you currently have as your own business entity instead of accepting them as yourself. And now I'm going to pass it over to Eli Grogan, who will be talking to you about your shareholders and the paperwork that needs to be carried out.
Hello, Ms. Haywood. This is a book that we're going to send to you in a PDF file along with all the other information we've shown you. We've got a lot of our information from this book. The Business Startup Toolkit gives you a lot of information that you might need to go further with your business. So for any business, it's imperative to lay down some ground rules between you and your investors. You should first require your investors to sign a non-disclosure agreement. This is to ensure your investors do not take your idea elsewhere and start up a different company. You also need to create an operating agreement to outline the basic rights and responsibilities of your investors. The operating agreement will include a statement of the division of profits and losses and voting rights for your investors. And this book that we're going to send you really delves deep into that idea and all about the operating agreement. So lastly, you should also include a supermajority amendment in your charter or term sheet. This is to ensure that the majority of the shareholders will have to approve any major decisions that you all make. So that's usually between about 67 to 90%. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Sam Plott to go ahead and close out this presentation.
All right, Ms. Haywood, it seemed as though you were worried about your shareholders being board members since they are investors in your company. And we do see where that can separate their fiduciary responsibility with their personal interest, because the goals of the company may not always be the goals of the investors. So they're already involved in the board and they have 50%, so they can't really be removed. But what you need to do is convince them to bring on new board members so that have actual experience in the medical software industry and other areas that you believe are going to be important. This will help guide your company in a better direction, and it will also help dilute their votes as board members. And moving forward, that will ensure that the board is making sound decisions and they're not just picking what is in the investor's best interest. And this may be hard to do at first, but even if the new board members aren't taken on easily in the beginning, it is something that's going to help the value of your company and overall increase the return on investment for the investors. Haywood, this is one of many meetings that we hope to have in the future, and we know it was short, but we believe that we covered the most important issues that you need to go over moving forward. During this presentation, we were covering a bunch of stuff like who owns the code and where you can get paperwork and stuff from, and how to assemble a board of advisors. But what you need to do moving forward is continue to go over this stuff and not just take our word for it and learn it yourself. And what we're going to do is send you all the stuff that we had in an email so that we can follow up with it, and then you can read it and refer back to us with any questions, and we'll respond as soon as possible. We hope that we can see you again in the future and continue to consult with you and help you in your obviously growing business.